Zhang Chen illuminated the bottom with a flashlight. Xu Yina crawled down in front of him and shouted "Hoo hoo." Zhang Chen shone the lights behind him. Xiao Shi and Shi Chen hurriedly followed. Zhang Chen reminded him to be careful. Don't be in a hurry. Xu Yina let out a cry as if to tell them "Hoo hoo." Zhang Chen looked at the front in surprise. There was a door in front of him. Zhang Chen shined a flashlight and asked if it was this place. Where was the light switch? And the dust filled the sky. Shi Chen anxiously called out to brother Shen. Xiao Shi watched silently. Zhang Chen turned on the switch. It was okay to see it. Shi Zan and Xiao Shi looked at the room. Xu Yina crawled deep inside. Shi Zan said in amazement that brother Chen was. There was a laboratory chamber with number 7 outside, and there were many tubes connected to each other. Zhang Chen replied hopefully, "It seems that this place is Xu Yina's laboratory." Shi Chen approached Zhang Chen. She asked brother Shen, "This is the number 7 rest room." Zhang Chen assessed the surroundings, then said that it seemed to be. At this time, Xu Yina came to a nearby table. She frantically rummaged, digging in the stack of papers on the table. Zhang Chen shouted at Xu Yina, "What kind of trick are you doing?" Xu Yina let out a few "hoo hoo hoo I." Zhang Chen shouted at her, "Hey, stop her hand. Is this looking for things or destroying things?" After rummaging around searching for, Xu Yina finally found what she wanted to find. She took a bundle of paper in her hand and cried out "Hoo hoo hoo." Zhang Chen approached her, took the stack of papers. "This is specifically to find out for me." Zhang Chen began to read the sheets one by one. He speculated to do so, proving that Xu Yina's consciousness was relatively clear, but the mourner clearly had a complete human body. She couldn't control her actions like her own. This was obviously a photo of an online conversation. The content of the paper was a conversation Xu Yina had with a person named Mo Lin. Mo Lin said that, "I felt that doing experiments on biological energy and combining microorganisms, it was absolutely a mistake. The structure of these microorganisms is very simple. The rate of mutated genes is very high. We just started the experiment. There are at least 5,000 strains, and by the time we talked this number has skyrocketed," accompanied by pictures of 3 types of microorganisms sent by Mo Lin. He continued, "I stumbled upon a bacterium infected by biological energy. The reason for using infections is because they are not caused by us through technical tricks. But the creature energy actively attaches to it. I feel that this creature energy is like a life, can find a suitable host, symbiosis with it." The second paper was an image of a strange creature. Its whole body was blue. Mo Lin continued to say that the bacterium was actively attached by the organism's energy, did not show a random mutation state, but always carried out stable multiplication, separation, and replication. I had never seen through the genes of 2 to 30-something organisms that could multiply stable, but this red guy likes to eat everything that contains sugar and food derived from traditional energy. Of course, the food I talk about also includes whole organic organisms. I decided to destroy it. Absolutely cannot let it reveal. Zhang Chen seriously read all the papers in one turn. The next sheet of paper was a notice announcing that all the staff of the C506 laboratory in one experiment had a fire, eventually a serious explosion, and that the squad had deployed an emergency search and rescue. No living people have been found, but I paid tribute to those who spearheaded the exploration of eternal secrets. They are our heroes. Zhang Chen noticed a special phrase in which the secret is eternal. He sighed and looked at Xu Yina if she could talk. How good it was. The secret became more and more, making people vague. Xu Yina seemed to understand what he said. She exclaimed "Hoo hoo." At this moment, Shi Chen was standing in front of the flight number rest chamber. She called Zhang Chen. He quickly looked at this rest chamber. Zhang Chen was surprised. Shi Chen opened the door of the 7th chamber, but the inside was completely empty. There was nothing inside. This chamber seemed to have been broken for a long time. Zhang Chen rushed over. He looked inside in amazement. Zhang Chen remembered the conversation with Xu Yina. She said seriously, "The meteorite node is all the cause of the mutation, lashing out at the nucleus that cannot destroy it. In chamber number 7 there is the last hope of humanity. Zhang Chen is afraid to think that we are late or Xu Yina's judgment is wrong. Is there no hope left for man?" At this moment suddenly there was a loud shout. "Ya a. Shi Zan spoke this." Xiao Shi outside held her head with her hands, and she screamed in pain "Aa." Xiao Shi was extremely anguished. The little girl shouted "Aa." It seemed that her hair was changing. Xiao Zai's hair had turned white, but with that transformation, the pain also gradually disappeared. Zhang Chen and Shi Chen quickly rushed over. Zhang Chen anxiously asked Xiao Shi what happened. Jiang Chen noticed Xiao Zai's transformation. Her hair. Xiao Shi looked at them silently. After she removed her hand from her face, a face with yellow human eyes gradually revealed. Xiao Shi didn't seem to recognize Jiang Chen and Shi Zan. There were a lot of black wars around her, Xiao Shi exclaimed. Shi was very worried about little Xiao Shi. What's wrong with her? At this time, Xiao Shi has fallen into an extremely frantic state. Shi still hopes that she can wake up again. Xiao Shi is awake. The system appears announcing the unnamed experiment of the seventh resting chamber awakening. Self-naming Xiao Shi has touched the original state. Type 9 biochemical person. The extreme gene technique of mercury blue crystal perfectly harmonizes with the extreme of crystal energy. The age of 14. The new life skill of passive real life will follow the age of natural growth. Through combat, study, observation, practical methods can all enhance its environmental adaptation energy. No need for gene enhancement drawings. It is also possible to conduct automatic gene enhancement. When Shi Chen was about to approach Xiao Shi, Jiang Chen immediately prevented Shi Zan from passing. It was the experiment of the number 7 rest chamber, Shi Chen said in surprise. Jiang Chen thought anxiously, but this skill is too paradoxical. If Xiao Shi really loses his reason to launch an attack on us, he is not sure that he can suppress it. Jiang Chen had just finished his thoughts when Xiao Shi suddenly rushed to attack them. She jumped up and threw a kick. But suddenly, the person Xiao Shi attacked was not Jiang Chen and Shi Chen, but Xu Yi Na. Xu Yi Na was kicked by Xiao Shi against the back wall, causing it to cry out in pain. The system appeared to announce 19% kill. Xiao Shi still hadn't given up. She jumped up. Then attack on the weakening Xu Yi Na. Shi Chen was extremely surprised to see this scene. She was pursuing Xu Lina. Could it be that the experiment, not that Xiao Shi specializes in destroying Jiang Shi? Jiang Chen thoughtfully thought that relying on physical attacks alone directly deals 11% damage to Shu Liken in the state of a third-type erectile exam. There was a stick in Xiao Zai's hand at this time, and the little girl with the stick frantically attacked Xu Ying Xiu. But before Xiao Zai's attack landed on Xu Yichen's body, Jiang Chen appeared to save her. Jiang Chen clutched Xiao Zai's wrist holding the cane. He held Xiao Hai's shoulder and called out to the pups, sobering up a little. That person was not a person, he couldn't kill. Xiao Shi suddenly smiled, and her smile looked extremely terrifying. Xiao Shi broke out of Jiang Chen and then jumped up. Jiang Chen was surprised by her sudden action. At this time, Xiao Zai's target had shifted to Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen stood in front of Xu Yina's person who was crying out in pain. He thought angrily, what is just killing Jiang Shi? This is killing crazy. Not knowing anyone, just move and she attacks. Suddenly Xu Lina cried out in pain, you. Her screams caused the objects in the room to stir constantly. And far outside, Xu Linen's cry could still be heard. Xiao Shi stepped back a little. Then took the momentum to jump up and attack Xu Yi Na. At this time Xu Yi Na no longer continued to dodge. She stood up to face Xiao Shi ya. The system again showed a message that the person infected with the third form erectile exam had lost its reason. The human being transformed into a mourner, and at the same time was summoning the gang exam. Jiang Chen was tired and annoyed. It was true that again and again. Xiao Shi swung his fist at Xu Lina, but Xu Lina quickly dodged the attack, causing Xiao Shi to fall to the ground to form a big hole. Attacking Xu Yina failed. Xiao Shi turned her target to Jiang Chen again. Her eyes were red. She jumped up and then raised her hand to jump towards Jiang Chen. But Jiang Chen quickly used her speed to avoid Xiao Zai's attack. Jiang Chen created a shield in front of him to fend off Xiao Zai's attack. But the shield was completely useless. Xiao Shi could easily break it with one hand. Xu Yan was attacking Jiang Chen when he was attacking Jiang Chen and ran away. Jiang Chen angrily pointed his finger underneath. He said in a tone that ordered Xiao Shi not to go out, "You ran lost. And then where do you go to find me? Quickly and obediently recover normally, otherwise you will beat me." Xiao Shi raised her fist, and her fist also carried a huge aura of power. Then immediately threw a punch at Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen immediately clenched Xiao Zai's fist with his hand. When Xiao Shi didn't pay attention to him, Shi Zan quickly rummaged for more things that could help him. Shi Zan shouted and told Jiang Chen that he persisted a little. If Xiao Shi is an experiment, there must be materials to suppress it. Jiang Chen was using all his strength to fend off Xiao Zai's attack. He took a moment to say to Shi Chen, "You can quickly find me to persevere for not long." Shi Zan held a book in her hand. She excitedly shouted yes and yes. Found it and found it. Shi Zan flipped through the book and quickly looked for ways that could overcome Xiao Shi. If the biochemical form appeared symptoms of dizziness, vomiting; if the biochemical form appeared swollen limbs; if the biochemical form was bleeding. Shi Chen flipped to a page that was no longer intact. She was glad to say that this is this. If the biochemical body has violent tendencies. Shi Chen was extremely bewildered, saying what if the biochemical body showed violent tendencies? Shi Chen hurriedly flipped through the pages behind and behind. Shi Zan desperately said that the document behind was burned. Zhang Chen stood motionless, as if he couldn't hold on anymore. Xiao Shi condensed his power into a blue orb. Then, attacking Zhang Chen with full force, the shield in front of Zhang Chen's body was completely shattered. Zhang Chen was pushed back by Xiao Shi, the surrounding earth and stone shattered, and the smoke and dust were hazy. The injured Zhang Chen spat out a mouthful of blood. He used all his strength to shout with the desire to be able to wake Xiao Shi the little mouse. Are you really poisonous? Just as Xiao Shi was about to approach Zhang Chen, she seemed to have been influenced by Zhang Chen's call. Xiao Shi was stunned and did not continue to attack. Then Shi Chen quickly rushed to hug her. With this sudden hug, Xiao Shi did not understand at all. Zhang Chen leaned back, and then also shouted at Xiao Shi. Xiao Zai's eyes seemed to begin to change. Shi Zan hugged Xiao Shi tightly. She cried and said that Xiao Shi can't be like that. We are family members. We can't act with family members. Xiao Zai's eyes widened, and she seemed to be able to understand what Shi Chen said. Zhang Chen took out the obedience pill from the space. He opened the bottle with his mouth, extremely eager to say such a good opportunity, so that he could learn to obey first and then speak. Zhang Chen squeezed Xiao Zai's mouth, who was being hugged by Shi Chen. The little girl in pain exclaimed. Zhang Chen took this opportunity to pour the whole bottle of medicine into her mouth. Xiao Shi just swallowed all the pills down her stomach. After drinking, Xiao Zai's body emitted an extremely powerful light, and she seemed to scream in pain. At this time, Xiao Zai's hair had returned to its original color. Xiao Zai's eyes also became lively again. Shi Chen hugged Xiao Shi and said successfully, Xiao Shi has recovered normally. Zhang Chen still does not stop worrying. It can only be said that there is no problem temporarily. The system shows a message reminding the side effects of the obedience pill, temporarily in a coma, 5 hours, 37 minutes, 23 seconds, due to the characteristics of the target physical effect. The obedience drug can only temporarily suppress the violent tendency. It cannot be completely subdued. Please be prepared to increase the dosage of the reagent again. At this moment, there was a constant noise outside, growling, growling, growling. Zhang Chen turned around and went outside. Before he left, he told Shi Zan to hear this sound like a court. Shi Chen, you take care of Xiao Shi, you go out and check it out. Just as Zhang Chen had predicted, outside of a new round of imperial examinations, the number of exams was extremely large. Zhang Chen went out and used a sword to destroy a large number of Zhangxi nearby. But that is still nothing because the number of exams this time has come to an uncountable number. Zhang Chen jumped up and stood in a higher place, carrying his sword on his shoulder, observing the body beneath these things because Xu Yina had lost his humanity. Zhang Chen stood on the roof of a high-rise building warming up his bones. He thought that the automatic vigilance of the information tower could not withstand it for long. The back must be a high-level exam after all. He looked at the information tower and then made that decision. There were suddenly a lot of fireworks in the sky. Zhang Chen squatted down, covered his ears with his hands. Zhang Chen made a reckless decision to play big. The corpses below stared at Zhang Chen. Their eyes were bright red and flashed with red light. Zhang Chen held the sword. His sword was covered with a blue aura of power. Zhang Chen used the first-order soul-burning skill. Zhang Chen was extremely excited to think of this sound. Half the city could hear. The whole body must have been attracted to the body. You guys heat up. Zhang Chen suddenly jumped downwards. He carried a sword. Behind him was a powerful aura of power that burned the soul. The second step. Zhang Chen was extremely looking forward to what happened next. The hotter you guys were, the more excited I was. Zhang Chen showed a devilish smile. Taking him as the center, a circle of power grows and then spreads around, and wherever it goes, it will be completely destroyed. Zhang Chen bathed in the blood of Zhang Shi. At this time, not only Zhang Shi, but also giant, strange monsters and iguanas appeared simultaneously. Zhang Chen used the next technique of concussion fusion. He ran away carrying the sword with a huge burst of crystal power combined. Zhang Chen's pupils turned red. He used the concussion crystal, went where the corpse was destroyed. Zhang Chen stood firmly on the ground, surrounded by the blood of many corpses destroyed by him. Zhang Chen looked at the crowded crowd in front of him. In the sky a large hole appeared, which carried countless lightning bolts below. Zhang Chen controlled the hole with his hand. Zhang Chen stood still in place without taking any further action, and the crowd rushed towards him. Zhang Chen looked at his hand, burning the soul of the third hiccup. Every second consumes 4 times the whole crystal. The double strength usually used at critical times to save lives or kill high-level monsters is still less colored, but I am different. Zhang Chen raised his hands to the sky. He suddenly exploded in power. Zhang Chen was extremely arrogant and said that Lao Su has many crystals, who are players afraid of. In the hospital, Shi Chen was guiding Xiao Shi to a safer place, and he had to bring Xiao Shi to safety and then help him. But the unfortunate thing happened, hoping to be directly surrounded by a horde of monsters. Shi Chen laid Xiao Shi down in a safe place nearby. She took out a huge gun, silently observing the number of monsters with 6. Shi Chen was extremely confident, constantly firing at the monsters coming here. Absolutely not letting you hurt Xiao Shi. The monsters rushed in unison. Shi Chen fired at them one by one. She shot the monster while silently counting 1 or 2. It seemed that the gun could no longer be used at this time. Shi Chen thought angrily. It was terrible. She reached into the space to look for something that could use most of the weapons and ammunition that was left in Kui Zhishen's place. She could only use other weapons. She pulled out a rope, tossed out and wrapped the 3-child monster tightly. The monster that had just been tightly wrapped by the rope fell backwards, causing smoke and dust to rise in the air. It was wrapped tightly around its neck. The tighter the rope was wrapped, constantly making a crunching sound. Shi Zan was glad to think it was too good to be controlled. Struggled a little more to squeeze himself. Shi Chen saw something behind him. A loudspeaker monster came to attack Shi Zan. Another one was rushing towards Xiao Shi. Shi Zan anxiously shouted at Xiao Shi. Shi Chun was pushed to the ground by the monster. While the 1,000 pounds hung by her hair, she promptly took out a sword and space. Shi Chen pressed the electric sword at the monster she said jerked you to death. It cried out in pain. At the moment when the monster was in shock, Shi Chun quickly ran away. She risked her life to run away, then jumped up, carrying a knife in her hand. He once said, "The greatest fatal point of the prostrate is the spine." Shi Chen shouted to kill. 4. At Xiao Zai's place at this time, the little girl was still in a coma, and the monster looked at her with great confusion, in the ability of the monster to think that Xiao Shi was its accomplice. At this moment, Shi Chen appeared behind him and kicked him a little away from him, giving me a shot. Shi Zan quickly hugged Xiao Shi who was in a coma. She silently counted 5. Shi Zan was extremely tired at this time. Sweat ran down her face, and Shi Zan was constantly breathing heavily. Although she was tired, Shi Zan still kept Xiao Shi safe. She thought that she had no strength anymore. Fortunately, there was only one poisonous genitalia left. Suddenly, the 2 monsters killed by Hai Zan earlier suddenly came back to life. And Shi Zan was worried about why these 2 were alive. Shi Chen angrily blamed himself for still being too weak, although he was a team, but he was so weak that even the shadow of their back could not catch it. Shi Chen remembered Zhang Chen and Xiao Zai's strong fighting appearance. She desperately thought incompetent, low-level. Shi Chen realized that even little Xiao Shi was extremely strong, only she was not protected in the back. She was tucked in the safest armor but. Shi Chun closed her eyes tightly. She was determined to speak, but I also wanted to protect you. Shi Zai's body was too much to bear, but she still tried, clenching her teeth to help Xiao Shi stand up. Even if she was weaker, she wanted to protect you. Shi Chen carried Xiao Shi on his back and turned around and quickly ran away. Behind him were 3 monsters who still didn't understand what happened. Shi Chen carried Xiao Shi and ran towards the direction of the elevator in front of the elevator holding Xu Yina's feet. Finally the 2 of them managed to get into the elevator in time and close the door, which probably counted as the safest place here. But unexpectedly, Shi Chen left Xiao Shi in the elevator, and she went out alone to confront the 3 monsters. The elevator doors were completely closed. Shi Chen glanced behind her, saw that the elevator door was closed, and smiled in relief. She made sure to think Xiao Shi would be okay. Shi Chen once again swung the rope tightly wrapping the monster Ai Ya. At this moment, the two monsters in front of her were killed, and Shi Chen was extremely surprised. Zhang Chen appeared, and he passed her and jumped towards the monster behind her. With just one move, he quickly killed the monster. Zhang Chen turned around and ran back to Shi Chen. He anxiously asked how the exhausted Shi Chen sitting on the ground was injured. Shi Zan looked at Zhang Chen in bewilderment. Zhang Chen put his hand on her shoulder, sincerely said that the outside court wasted some time. Sorry. Shi Chen suddenly cried. She cried out loud and rushed to hug Zhang Chen. I thought I really couldn't see you again this time. Sorry, I'm so weak. Even the prostrate ones can't deal with it, just more trouble. Shi Chen closed her eyes. She was extremely disappointed in herself, blaming herself for saying that he was out of danger and had to come back and save her. Zhang Chen picked up Shi Chen, who was extremely depressed before now. He didn't help him. He didn't deserve to be by his side. Hearing Zhang Chen say that, Shi Chen only knew how to question. Zhang Chen continued to say that the previous time was the same. Obviously, controlling the armor muscle still needed him to come and save him. Zhang Chen said, well, if you talk about physical strength, the extreme body now does not look very strong. Shi Chen was stunned to hear Zhang Chen say. She stared at Zhang Chen. But Zhang Chen suddenly laughed loudly. But since when have you not been able to help? Please, I killed the 3 prostrate children by myself just now. And saving Xiao Shi before my life is also me saving. Xiao Shi was still in a coma in the elevator. Zhang Chen was trying his best to comfort Shi Chen. He listed every single thing that Shi Chen could do, that he was very smart, not only knew how to do household chores, but also knew how to cook, if it wasn't for him. Shi Chen shyly turned his face away. Zhang Chen continued to list her good points. The food in this place, Xiao Shi could torment him to death. The important thing is. Zhang Chen was extremely confident, pointing at himself strongly. It is a man's business. Protecting women is also a man's responsibility. Shi Chen timidly asked Brother Shen, thank you for comforting me. I will definitely turn strong, so can I continue to be my teammate? Zhang Chen touched Shi Chen's face as a family member. It was important. Without waiting for Zhang Chen to finish his sentence, there was a loud noise from the elevator. The elevator doors slowly opened. Xiao Shi staggered out of the elevator. Shi Chen shouted excitedly, Xiao Shi is awake. Zhang Chen looked at Xiao Shi and then reminded Shi Chen. It was not true that this look of his eyes was not normal. Be careful. Xiao Shi suddenly rushed to Ya A. Shi Chen called out to Xiao Shi in surprise. But at this moment, Xiao Shi fell face down in front of the two Shi Chen, covering their mouths in surprise. The system presents a message suggesting that the hidden system under the effect of the submissive drug is temporarily in a coma. 4 hours, 53 minutes, 33 seconds. Zhang Chen picked up Xiao Shi lying on the ground. Shi Chen asked Brother Shen anxiously, Xiao Shi, this is? Zhang Chen helplessly said that he was asleep. Zhang Chen was surprised to think that this brat's physical condition is really good. He can still move. Fortunately, he is asleep. Zhang Chen carried Xiao Shi on his back. He said that the baby mouse will wake up in more than 4 hours. This time he must find a suitable place to use his legs. But the laboratory was no longer habitable. Shi Chen said that the psychiatric ward below the hospital is quite discreet. We go to the documentation room to see if anything can be used. They were now searching every nook and cranny in the document room. All kinds of papers were found in one turn. The history of hospital development, the hospital layout drawings. Zhang Chen carried Xiao Shi searching on the nearby bookshelf. Shi Chen suddenly shouted to Brother Shen. He quickly watched this. It must have worked. Zhang Chen took the paper that Shi Chen had just found, and it turned out that this was a map of Shan'an City. Zhang Chen pondered the map of Shan'an City. Zhang Chen looked at the important locations of Shan'an City marked on the map. He thought thoughtfully, marking the nuclear radiation deep in the northwest forest. It must be the place where the crystal fell that year. These places have been attacked. It is definitely impossible to go there directly. To ensure safety, you must find some anti-radiation clothes first. In that Shan'an City epidemic prevention station, the route of 10 miles must be an hour to return. Zhang Chen said to Shi Zan, you have to go to the Nanshan epidemic prevention station. You and the rat stay here and wait for you to return. Shi Zan immediately agreed. Zhang Chen was still not very reassured, saying that the outside exam had been cleaned up, but to ensure safety, it was still advisable to protect. Zhang Chen laid Xiao Shi down, covered her eyes with a blindfold, and then tied Xiao Shi tightly with a rope. Shi Chen took the weapon and stood next to Xiao Shi, laughed and said to Zhang Chen, It is necessary to defend Xiao Shi. Brother Shen, is that too pompous? Jiang Chen went to the door, waved his hand at Shi Chen and said happily that it is okay to take a souvenir picture, he will not tell it. As soon as Jiang Chen came out, the system made a ding sound. He walked while manipulating the system. The notification system entered the state of automatically picking up and reopening the function. The notification system picked up 52,000 energy crystals, plus 41,600, 80% endowment, accelerated fertilizer 899. Human blood evolved 290, plastic skin 758, sharp claws 550, wear-resistant skin 32, corrosive fluid 16, accelerated fertilizer 125, endowed glass 1, high-grade pet food 15, self-energy crystal 4, broken anti-radiation clothing 7, high-level infect indicator machine 1, storage ring fragments 833, nano medicine 1. Number 5, simple armor 10, machine gun 835, machine gun ammunition 7500. High-level infectious person indicator, which can be used 3 times, displays the distribution status and location of high-level infected people in the current city. 1. Nano warfare after use appears a full-body warfare with extremely strong toughness and regenerativeness, will be very strong against damage. Reminders can be used with energy armor. Simple armor can cause the user's strength and speed to break through to the extreme of death. There is no defense. The damaged anti-radiation jacket has been punctured, cannot be used on chest writing Shannan City Epidemic Prevention Center. Jiang Chen manipulated the control panel. The simple armor wearing this was not like a star transformation. It did not seem to directly change the appearance. In a sense, it was very good. Jiang Chen put on the armor. He noticed that this thing was not bad. But the problem was that the condenser crystal was important. The fall rate was so low. In the system control panel in front of Jiang Chen, the image of the condensed crystal energy was displayed on the screen, where he also had the doubling of the minor, quaternary condenser fusion. The system appeared again announcing 1000 energy crystals equal to 1 energy condenser crystal, upgraded by 4000 energy condenser crystals by 4 energy condenser crystals by 100, 8000 third type infected. Jiang Chen angrily held his head. Last time the court did not drop any. This time killing 40 third type mutants had just dropped 4. Upgrading was getting harder and harder. The system emitted ding sound, used heavenly glass. On the system screen was showing the evolution direction of the death tornado gene +1, sensing weaknesses, the direction of energy evolution energy cultivation +1, soul burning, speed. Jiang Chen breathed a sigh of luck, but also had heavenly glass. The tornado killed 1-in-1 with a weapon in his hand, needing a melee weapon that sparked a powerful vortex of energy around him. After the tornado is over, it will jump high, and at the same time conduct a heavy attack on the most powerful one or designated target. Deal 500% damage, 1 out of 3 energy refining, can be through consuming 1000 energy crystal points combined into 1 energy crystal. The success rate is 20%. After failing to return the energy crystal, the total number of energy crystals available 100119. Jiang Chen estimated with his hand and then said irritably, the result was very unpleasant. Now this little bit of energy crystal is not enough. He kept running. The result was that only the exam was righteous. Hurry up. Jiang Chen jumped up, looking forward to saying that he hoped that the epidemic prevention station could give a little surprise. Outside the epidemic prevention station, there are many exams gathered here. On the shattered door was a sign that said Shannan City Epidemic Prevention Station, which was appearing a lot outside. Surprisingly, there were still people alive in the epidemic prevention station, and they hid behind a wall to peek at the corpses outside. The leader of the monsters and the gang was none other than Xu Yina, who had completely lost his humanity. Hiding behind the wall were 2 women. The purple-haired girl asked how Hong Yi was doing. The girl named Hong Yi shook her head no, they refused to go. Behind those 2 girls there were many others. The girl who was helping the red-haired woman said that the girl's intelligence was very high. She took the others looking for us. Jiang Chen looked at the building below where a lot of reinforcements were gathered, and said that this was Shannan's epidemic prevention station. He looked at the frenzied reinforcements below. Although there were not many high-end types, fortunately there were many. Jiang Chen looked at the system control panel, just in time to test this new skill to see if it was good or not. The control panel was showing a death tornado. Jiang Chen jumped down to the reinforcements, then pulled out his sword, and the gangsters still looked at the appearance of a stranger in bewilderment. Zhang Chen swung his sword and formed a tornado that destroyed all around him. Where the tornado goes, it will be destroyed. Zhang Chen said that this thing is essentially like a meat grinder, and it is quite good. After destroying all the low-level reinforcements, there was only one giant high-level reinforcement left. It aggressively rushed towards Zhang Chen. He looked at the low-level reinforcement that was rushing towards him. There was also the last. Zhang Chen used his sword and slashed one blow at Zhang Shi, 500% violent damage. After destroying it, the system appears to announce that it has received Energy Crystal 2400 plus 1920. Zhang Chen looked at the sword in his hand excitedly, and said it well, strong enough. Another flood of reinforcements came, surrounding him inside Zhang Chen while manipulating the control panel, while swinging his sword to kill Zhang Shi. Only unfortunately, this side is full of low-grade things. If you want to drop the condensed semen, you still have to be a whaler and a rebuff. The high-level infector indicator, which can only show the distribution of high-level infected people in a large area, is not very good to use, not even as good as my hidden system. The system made ding sounds. The hidden system in this building had a crying one and a prostrate bat child, and there were 6 lucky survivors. Zhang Chen looked inside in surprise and said something. Zhang Chen used the combined semen to quickly kill the gang of people who moved inside. There were people crying. One could not be. The small fly was also meat. Xu Yina and the monsters seemed to notice something. The monsters rushed towards the window. The girls who were hiding noticed that the monsters were distracted and took this opportunity to run away from the purple-haired girl and said, "Hey, underneath it seems that someone is killing Zhang Shi. Maybe the 9th team is coming back." A pink-haired girl who is still very scared said, "Ignore it, Captain. When they don't look for us anymore, we run quickly." A monster seemed to have heard their conversation, paused and cried out. Hong Yi ordered everyone to be quiet. Everyone followed me. Carefully, the purple-haired girl covered her mouth and motioned for her to be quiet. They stood up one by one. Hong Yi motioned for them not to speak, lightly. Suddenly a pink-haired girl shouted, her expression filled with fear. Behind Hong Yi, a monster did not know when it appeared. She still didn't know what was behind her, so she still calmly said hey, if she was so loud. The other girl shouted at the captain, behind her. This sentence made Hong Yi's expression change rapidly. She immediately became scared as she was about to die. Hong Yi slowly turned his head backwards and was spotted. She shouted pepper, and in her hand immediately appeared a pepper aimed directly at the monster. Hong Yi shouted, ordering everyone what to expect, run quickly. They hadn't had time to run away, when Xu Yina appeared to block their way, and the little girl in blue said slowly. Xu Yina led the prostrate group to slowly approach them, and she excitedly exclaimed ya. Xu Yina let out a long shout. Aaaa. He ordered the monsters behind him to rush up and tumble at the living. A girl who was too frightened to cry out oaa. Hong Yi was dealing with a monster. She heard her comrades' screams and turned around anxiously to watch everyone. At this moment, Zhang Chen broke the glass, jumped through the window and rushed in to find it. He slashed one blow and could easily destroy the prostrate that was attacking Hong Yi. He said disdainfully, a trash fish. He swung his sword. The monsters were killed one by one. Zhang Chen killed them while counting their number of 2 or 3 4. Hong Yi's teammates covered their mouths in surprise. Zhang Chen still felt that it was not enough to say 5 or 5. Zhang Chen with his sword jumped up in front of Xu Yina. He was extremely excited to say that it was finally time for you, Xu Yina exclaimed. She realized that Zhang Chen was very strong, so she immediately turned around and ran away. Zhang Chen coldly said that she wanted to run. He manipulates the system using a new move. Zhang Chen wielding the sword quickly shortened the distance with the wailing demon without a door, honestly there for me. Zhang Chen pierced through the wailing demon with his sword, then it shattered into splinters. Zhang Chen held the sword expectantly and dropped the condensed semen away. The system re-announces ding, automatically collects. Congratulations, you receive. After the item notification system received, Zhang Chen was extremely disappointed. Of course, there was none. He thought angrily that this fatal fall rate suddenly had a sound of praise sounding, wow, he is so handsome. Zhang Chen remembered them now. He turned around and asked, oh, are you okay? The purple-haired girl said it was okay. Luckily with him, they kept praising Zhang Chen for being too strong. Hong Yi was still wary of asking who he was, why he appeared here. She secretly thought that maybe a blow to kill a third-type infector. And when she destroyed the prostrate ones next to her, she couldn't even see clearly. This person was too strong. Jiang Chen thought angrily to the point of being disrespectful. He coldly said very clearly that the person who saved you, not wrong, did not want to say thank you, but I came here to find radioactive clothes, if you can make a thank you gift for me. Han Yi said angrily, how can anyone directly look for you FTA to ask for gifts of thanks? There is no gaff at all. Her teammates saw that the tense atmosphere immediately calmed the atmosphere. Thank you for saving us, but there are no radiation clothes on us. She showed off her pretty figure, softly saying that we had actually come looking for radiation today, but someone was one step ahead of us. The system squeaked ding, reminding there is a new announcement hidden system. The roar of the wailing person can attract high-level infected people in a combat state within a radius of 3 kilometers. Jiang Chen was happy to say yo, this is a good thing, with it, there is no need to go around fighting monsters anymore. Jiang Chen pointed to the necklace on the other girl's neck, knowing that if there are no radiation clothes, then give this to me, otherwise I can pay for it, the girl who touched the necklace on her neck said in surprise. Suddenly Han Yi stepped forward to separate the two. She threw Jiang Chen's hand and scolded him for saying something. Sharp Lang, stay away a little. Jiang Chen was suddenly scolded and was extremely stunned. What I said was that pendant, what do you want? Han Yi was also dumbfounded. The rope, the necklace. The purple-haired girl pointed to the rope on her neck. It turned out to be this necklace. He saved us. This bit of stuff is of course not worth anything. Han Yi held the arm of his friend Han Han. This is evidence that this 9th team hurt us to be attacked by a high-level examiner. How can it be for people? Han Han said we all know that this was dropped by the 9th team, but as long as they don't admit it, we are out of the way. By giving to his benefactor to return his favor, this is the same. Jiang Chen took the rope from her hand. Han Han asked him, not knowing how to address him. Jiang Chen smiled and introduced himself as Jiang Chen. Han Han also introduced himself to Jiang Chen. Brother Jiang, officially introduced a little. We are the 8th platoon of the 4 Knights Heavenly League. This one is the Captain Wei Hong. My name is Guan Han. Guan Han extended an invitation to Jiang Chen. The protective clothes he needed were not available in our hands, but there was probably leftover in the barracks. Would you like to accompany us to try your luck? After Jiang Chen successfully rescued the girls, they made a proposal to Jiang Chen, but he was a little hesitant to go to your place. But Han Han was now extremely excited to walk towards Jiang Chen and said that our place at the nearby hotel went with him. Jiang Chen was not in a hurry to reply, but hurriedly checked his system. He thought, how Xiaoxi woke up for a while, recently, only that place can get radiation clothes. Then you agreed with Han Han yes, but my time is a bit rushed. Han Han heard that happily, so happy to come out so well, waiting for the title I will thank you. Han Han grabbed Jiang Chen's hand tightly, and she continued. Yes, there is our car downstairs. Captain Han He and the other girls saw that a little dismissive. Jiang Chen hurriedly slammed his hand out of Han Han's hand, causing her to be a little stunned. Jiang Chen say that, secretly thinking in your mind for a man who has just met her, is it too intimate? I don't want to be a good man anymore. Hi the blushing cheeks deliberately pulled the shirt down a little to reveal 2 dumplings that were both white and round. The pink-haired girl saw this and said softly to Hong He. Hong He seemed to like the man. The other girl felt the same and said that I also felt that I didn't want to try it. The redhead said nonchalantly, not sure that Jiang Chen's name was really not bad. It could be compared to the 4 horsemen, who were also full of such great righteousness, had never thought of eating from people. Hong Yi heard this, and shouted angrily. What? How can he be compared to the 4 horsemen? You remember for me that our love belongs to the 4 horsemen. Seeing Hong Yi's reaction so outrageous, the girls said yes. Then they walked behind and whispered loudly to each other in fear of dying. The reaction of the red flamingo was too vehement. She is a hard fan who has accumulated 1,000 points that can have dinner with Xiao Ant. Then the group of them got into the car and rushed down the road. On the car, the lieutenant governor asked Han Han. She said that this time they went on a mission because they accumulated points as a result of being trapped. What is point accumulation? Han Han turned to happily reply that the point accumulation regime is the rule of our business. Han Han further explained, going out to find supplies or writing gangshi. You can redeem the corresponding points if you accumulate enough points. You can have dinner and date with the 4 horsemen. Jiang Chen curiously asked what the 4 horsemen were. The girls innocently mentioned the 4 horsemen. All excitedly said that it was the 4 heavenly horsemen, the group of super idols. Each of them was handsome and strong. At this time, they were our sole abode. A heavenly legion of the 4 horsemen come on can join the 4 horsemen in the performance music. It is true that fate has determined them to be our lifelong pursuit. Zhang Chen listened with a little hesitation, and there were question marks in his mind. Then he continued, so they were the 4 bums of your girls who went out to find supplies. They just needed to eat and date you. One girl in the group heard that and countered that it wasn't. The 4 horsemen were very strong, very strong. The girl also surrounded Zhang Chen and continued, can you imagine how painful it would be without spiritual support? They are our motivation for life. The 4 horsemen spend more than us. We are the ones who are protected. Zhang Chen is afraid to say that the car is still running. Suddenly stand up like so very dangerous. The girls kept saying we just needed to find supplies around and the 4 horsemen had to defend against the more terrifying group of radiation monsters on the border, which was a more terrifying existence than a Type E infected. In these words, Zhang Chen thought wistfully, the radiation monster is more terrifying than the Type E. The higher the radiation sources, the higher the level of Gangxi. This is also possible. It seems that the strength of those 4 people is not weak. I was engrossed in my thoughts when there was a light knock on the trunk. Han Yi said to Zhang Shenyi to come and get off the car. At this time, he pulled out of his train of thought, and replied. As soon as he jumped off the car, Zhang Chen was amazed and exclaimed, in front of him, there is now an extremely magnificent palace. Han also got off at this time. She told Zhang Chen that it was okay for us to stay. Zhang Chen replied too modestly, thinking for the first time, I felt that Hu Chen's mansion was hidden when I was with Xiao Shi. Han's cheeks flushed with a pair of rounded sides continued, actually, this sentence I wanted to say just now. Then she walked over to Zhang Chen's place and continued, his strength is so strong that it can even be compared to the 4 horsemen. So do you want to think about becoming the 5th horseman? Seeing that Han kept getting closer, Zhang Chen involuntarily stepped back a little. At this time, inside the girls' barracks, a blurry figure suddenly flashed by, causing the girls there to be extremely surprised. The girl's eyes were extremely serious. She heard the laughter coming from a room. Ha ha ha, the 9th team kid obeyed the truth. The people of the 8th team definitely can't come back anymore. In the pool was the laughter of the 4 horsemen. They laughed. Unfortunately, that official Han also looked quite pretty, but he had to eat with Wei Hong like that buffalo just by telling me to die. These horsemen were swimming happily with each other when suddenly the girl who had just opened the door of the room, Xiao Jian, saw this, turned to look at Sister Xiao. The knight next to him said that Xiao Jian wanted to eat peaches for people. Sister Xiao questioned seriously at this time, hearing that the team on duty was obsessed. It was obvious that you had played tricks. Their strength is weak. Look very sorry. This can't blame us, ha ha ha. Yes. The writers continued to laugh at her. Her face darkened at this time. She turned her headache over her temples, took a deep breath, revealing a tight rein. Then she walked over to a corner of the room that was covered with curtains in which there was a sound of triple A. She walked over and begged you to have the heart to walk around and make a mess as many times as she could and then refrain a little. Finishing her words, she lifted the leather curtain to reveal 2 naked bodies like chrysalis. The girl who saw this was astonished to exclaim, quickly took the towel to cover her hot body. This knight saw that it was not surprising. He said that he was so hot-tempered. Sister Xiao scolded angrily, not even knowing how to exercise such restraint. If she collapsed, what to do? He didn't pay attention and hugged the hot sister in his arms and scented her lightly on the cheek. What did he say? I'm giving out benefits to you, say if you like it. I don't know if it's welfare or sperm. This girl has been fascinated by this horseman. Her cheeks blushed softly. He added, there are no hunters now. Pepper helplessly sat down and rubbed his head with a breath. It is true that there are no hunters, but he is intelligent, eyes and ears are much in front of him. I try to do business very hard to use points to make you guys so powerful. If those girls don't go get cum anymore, you have to upgrade. This knight sounded a little pensive. Sister Xiao continued, it doesn't matter if you eat outside. You guys are still in the open party pool. Don't you want to lose everything? Saying that, Sister Xiao got up and was about to leave. He immediately put his hand on Sister Xiao's shoulder and said, Sister Xiao, what you said was a matter when you came, but at that time our strength was almost the same as the girls out there, but now it is different. We've become powerhouses, we have more dominance and choice, isn't that right? He said as he held her in his palm and touched her top pussy, making her blush shyly. Then he used his cunning gaze to continue to speak. The force of suppression was simpler. I didn't want to, because of that ridiculous bit of accumulation and the crystals that subdued me. Those brats also included her. He stabbed her in the back, spending a blow that made blood pour out. His last blow very decisively sent her Pepper to the altar to watch the naked chicken. The naked sister next to him who saw him act so cruelly could only cry out. The other horsemen who saw this scene were not surprised. They just said, a real hand, it is too much. Having a sister here is a little more convenient. Ah Luan, you are very callous. The guy who just killed Sister Xiao at this time, his eyes are extremely cold. He crushed the heart that just hooked from her chest. He said, I soon looked at that old woman uncomfortable, gave her face, and considered herself a big sister. Starting from now on, the company met the night by herself, the four horsemen decided. One of them smiled triumphantly, saying this. I didn't object. Suddenly from the outside came the voice of who you are. The four horsemen resting inside the air mission, exempt us from being members of the special ninth team who came looking for the horsemen. These knights heard this, a little surprised. Huyo Team 8 survived and returned and spent it, and then accumulated Wei Honglian's points. One shot can eat with two type people. I remember she prefers Ah Luan and Xiao Jian. Yes. You guys are really pathetic. Ha ha ha, they didn't even forget to tease each other. One person spoke up and wondered if A Luan was not a little prince. He told the battle team to go out to them. A Luan heard that, and cursed, a bunch of rubbish, this little thing was not done. His face is handsome but his beak is extremely bad. The naked sister like a chrysalis is now inside all over the hiccups. Ah Luan immediately stood up and said okay, and I went to try it. She saw that and reached out and sobbed. He coldly used a technique to end this sister's life. He was too annoyed to use something in the first place. Garbage should kill him straight away. He coldly said. The other sister got one of his moves, immediately fell on the bed bleeding. Outside the barracks, three girls in delicious uniforms were standing in front of the gate. She in the middle spoke, and I didn't get any notification. You can't enter. Hongyu walked over and said I got 1,000 points. Besides, just now I came back from the epidemic prevention station to make a big success so that I could meet A Luan. The purple-haired sister next to her also pointed at them and continued to say that even then, there was no longer a man next to her. Zhang Chen suddenly stammered and said, Wan Han saw this, and hugged Zhang Chen's arm happily and replied, he is the fifth knight Zhang Chen. The purple-haired girl who heard this exclaimed in amazement, second knight. Even Han he had to exclaim Han Han. Han Han was still naive. He was really strong. If we could join the barracks, we would definitely grow stronger. Zhang Chen was suddenly turned around and said, I said I didn't agree to be the fifth knight. A girl immediately came over and lifted Zhang Chen's chin, which surprised him a little. As a purple-haired girl, she used an extremely disdainful intonation, and said that just based on this little prince, Guan Han don't think that she was once loved by the four horsemen. It is very good. Dogs and cats are brought in. Guan Han heard this, stood dumbfounded, and Zhang Chen seemed unhappy. Hong Yi hurriedly spoke up from afar to stop the fool Mao from letting go. This man's strength was really before he could finish his words. Zhang Chen grabbed the purple-haired girl's hand, startling her with a voice. He coldly said, don't misunderstand. I'm just a passerby to love supplies. Then he smiled like a flower, but the look of anger was still present on his face, and he turned around. The girl locked her arm. But dog and cat, who did you say was huh? This girl was suddenly called out. Uncle, you let go. Sorry, I said wrong, please, the hand is about to break. Hong Yi said to stop him, but he was too out of form. The 13 girls who saw this earlier couldn't help but be amazed. The captain didn't have the strength to fight back. At this moment, the door of the barracks opened and a guy appeared. Girls immediately spoke up. He saw the scene in front of him, standing for a moment as to who was messing around, and the fifth horseman I had never heard of. Zhang Chen immediately looked at him with his eyes with a smile, thinking to himself, this is one of the four horsemen. So low level that he can't check this level. Let alone the one who cries the prostrate will fight back, and say that the strength is almost equal to me. What are you kidding? This is a woman bum. Zhang Chen despises him. Zhang Shen thought about it. But this is not related to me. He immediately released the purple-haired girl and said, misunderstanding. There is no fifth horseman. Your eighth team leads me to find supplies. If someone has radiation protection gear, just bid to get the things, I will go. A Luan wondered about the 8-star team. Hong Yi excitedly ran to her, said that this time the mission happened a lot, but my points were finally enough and I could have dinner with him. Before he could finish his words he immediately buried this Hong Yi girl. He angrily scolded, shut up, this murderer. Han Han saw this, anxiously stammered, calling Hong. Zhang Chen was also extremely surprised. Oh pit, this is the romantic family style. In his mind, he thought, but I'm buttered. Hong Yi was slapped extremely painfully. She slumped on the ground, questioningly asked A Luan. This guy still angrily pointed at her and loudly ordered the others. Just now, the people of the 8th squad burst into my room, killed the 8th squad sister who betrayed them, and then quickly arrested them. Of the 3 girls in uniform, they were stunned, exclaiming something. Sister Xiao was dead. Even Han Yi died on the spot. This is a misunderstanding. Han Han turned to see that Zhang Chen didn't care at all. He turned to leave. In his mind, he thought about the murder case to find some supplies. Why did he encounter such a dog-colored story? Peeking around in the ring of this group of people, no one with radiation clothes had to run before being swept in. Han Han immediately hugged Zhang Chen's arm and sobbed. I'm so scared. You Zhang saved me. What I promised you before. I begged you to save me. Zhang Chen was surprised. But you don't have protective gear, don't you say I'm you. Ah Luan witnessed this scene. Anger filled his face. He clenched his fists. 8,000 miles of view of this rotten woman. I said, why not have a royal emperor? You will follow me. It turns out that I have found a new man, but I am still so good to you. I don't plan to do anything to you. He finished, and began to gather energy, launching a bolt of energy towards Han Han and Zhang Chen, causing Han Han to be extremely surprised. But thankfully, she dodged and Zhang Chen thought to himself, it was still in the second stage primary awakening. Han Han immediately stretched out his hand and said that this matter is not related to Mr. Zhang. Zhang Chen looked at the girl. Han Han also said yes, it is okay not to have a relationship with you. Every word dragged me into the murky water. I am still in a hurry to find things that are really not free to play 36 next with you. After all, save you a piece without any thanks. Zhang Chen secretly reproached. This time, the other 3 horsemen also began to appear. They were bewildered as to what was happening. Why, it seems that someone wants to compete with us. It is unforgivable. I always heard that. Angrily clenched his teeth. He clenched his fists. Accumulated energy. He gritted his teeth and said he dared to argue with me. Little brother, I don't know who you are. Today is dead. After finishing his words, he immediately used the finished energy to attack towards Han Han and Zhang Chen. Zhang Chen was extremely annoyed that he didn't taste the green tea. At this time, he was very irritated. He coldly told me to ignore your affairs, but if you don't let me go, really anger me, don't regret it for a while. At the same time, Zhang Chen opened up his system. The knights who witnessed this scene asked each other in bewilderment. Ah didn't see him clearly earlier. One hand flew A's attack. Meng was too strong to let him go. A Luan C provoked red bitterness and anger loudly. What, is there a little bit of strength that has already played a majestic game in the 4 knights barracks? No wonder the 8th team dares to betray us. I see that this guy has played the trick. Maybe the person who killed Sister Xiao is him. Everyone came up to kill this invader to avenge Sister Xiao. Bowed. This Ah Luan is such a liar who doesn't blink. As soon as he finished, the 3 uniformed girls with their weapons rushed up to attack Zhang Chen. He also had to exclamate a big hat, so he didn't seem to do anything, but I was human. Hating it most of all, being slandered, he began attacking the 3 girls. The 3 girls who were hit by Zhang Chen's blow cried out in pain and fell to the ground. Zhang Chen was really angry. He held the sword in his hand, and said loudly, if you don't say it today, I leveled your headquarters. Han Han on one side was also extremely surprised. Then she suddenly gave a cold smile, just catching up with that moment, he thought, laughing in his head. At this moment, a horseman who was about to flee saw this, grabbed him by the collar and said a Vin defensive. This guy kept a fluffy attitude of people are afraid of pain, don't you? The middle god and the sword rushed to spray in his head. He thought he had said a word that made her show her expression. Finally succeeded. Suddenly, Arong's left arm began to change. It became huge. His fingernails also became extremely sharp, like the nails of a beast. He looked angrily at his palm, and let out a cold sigh. He could only invite him to die, and he immediately scratched a line towards Zhang Chen. Zhang Chen wondered in amazement. What the hell is this? There was only an hour of slashing and there was blood spilled. A mournful cry rang out. Inside the barracks this sound came out that astonished the people in the other room. They wondered what this mournful cry was, sounding like the voice of Ah Vin. Where did it come from? Suddenly Han Han pushed the door from outside. She said in a hurried voice, wishing everyone to hurry up and save the 4 horsemen. The people inside the room who heard this were extremely surprised and asked what was wrong. One person said, I know her. She is an official from the 8th team. Everyone surrounded Guan Han and asked Guan Han what happened. Guan Han took a breath and continued to say that there was a terrifying man who rushed in and wanted to kill the 4 horsemen. Everyone hurry up to help. After listening to the fire girls, what would someone want to harm the 4 horsemen? The call just now was indeed Ah Vincent's. Why did we not agree to the sisters to go to the 8? Whoever dares to harm the 4 horsemen, I kill that person. The girl was extremely determined to storm in front of my idol. I defended. Only Han Han was silent. After the girls left, Han Han turned around with a devilish smile. You crazy people. It turned out that the bloodshed earlier was caused by Ah Rong's arm being severed. Ah Rong cried out in pain, and Ah Luan saw this, and ran over to help him. The other two knights who saw this were also alarmed. They immediately said to each other, "This little prince slashed Ah Vin." That knife was very powerful and seriously dealt with the other one, and knew that from their hands began to appear an invisible rope. Then they immediately threw out the invisible rope and tied it tightly to Zhang Chen's arm. A man who spoke worked. The other guy blocked his weapon, Zhang Chen standing still and silently watching the two of them. He thought in his mind, pain is very harmful, there is no problem, but now he is not even aware of what his level means. Then he gave him a smile. His hands gripped the invisible rope of those two guys. He thought, or even the basic observing eye wasn't there. You scornfully said you bums like to play with these colorful things, don't I? Then, play your color too. Immediately, the divine chapter's gaze turned red. He used the energy condenser to lash out at the transfiguration version. The condenser energy transmitted his power through the invisible rope of those two men, causing those two to be hit like an electric shock, crying out awe. Then they fell to the ground with blood and mouth. At this time A Luan still held a Vin in his arms, witnessed them all, anxiously thought in their minds that the two of them came up together, also fight against him. The strength of our 4 horsemen is almost equal. A Vin cried out in pain. A Luan hoo I hurt so much, help me. At this time, Ah Luan, after a cold thought, he said, Ah Rong, you are like that. You have the strongest defensive ability among the 4 of us. I didn't expect to turn into that, but if it was, speaking of this, he hesitated a little. Then his hand slowly rested on Ah Vin's neck. Ah Vin still crying in pain, save me, save me. Luan said coldly, if only he died in my hands for me to upgrade at this time. He was no different from a blood-sucking demon. And he broke his neck with his hands, officially sending Ah Rong on his way to the Western Heavenly Sutra. Ah Rong died in the position of without closing his eyes. After finishing Ah Vin, he continued to upgrade, and Zhang Chen attacked the other 2 horsemen with electric lightning. Immediately fell to the ground. The soul leaves the body. Ah Luan quickly absorbed the energy formed after he killed Ah Vin. Zhang Chen couldn't help but be surprised by his actions. After a while of absorption, the system finally sounded the announcement that Ding had upgraded to a 1-tier intermediate awakener. Zhang Chen saw this, turned around and glanced at him and said. He was extremely angry and gritted Ken's teeth. Oh my god, you're also the one who didn't kill your accomplices to upgrade, so don't think about it. I spent something that you said earlier that 8 parts were also killed by you, right? Ah Luan, after successfully upgrading, had enough strength. He gave a devilish smile full of confidence, saying that the weak become the food of the strong. This is the law. You are so strong, don't you know this morality? At this moment, the sisters from the barracks who ran out to witness the scene in front of everyone were amazed. Even Zhang Chen was amazed because these girls were too crowded and dangerous. They saw their idol lying dead on the ground crying, my little aunt, Xiao Hao. Ah Luan stood on the side pointing at Zhang Chen and said, it's him, you guys killed him. Xiao Jian and Xiao Hao. He slandered Zhang Chen. Ah Rong and Sister Xiao are already dead in his hands. I really can't save them. Zhang Chen heard this and gritted his teeth angrily. He thought, his cheeks were spicy. He thought that he was no longer a performer, turned his face quickly. The excited girls rushed forward like tigers. I want you to pay for your life. Your perpetrator, the perpetrator. Zhang Chen was also a little stunned. His mind was now as tangled as silk. He looked coldly at the girls. Then shouted, you brainless guys are just right, and he unleashed his strength. The girls had to stop shielding the power with their hands. Zhang Chen was really crazy. He was angry and scolded torrentially. Me and Team 8 who just came here were just the perpetrators who thought carefully about what I did to have time to commit the crime. Wei Hong was by his side and the bodyguards were all witnesses. Also, if I kill that bead, you see, after all, who upgraded the supplies on him is now on whom. Isn't it clear? Ah Luan stood on one side listening to that, blackened his face. Zhang Chen continued to scold, don't be used as a gun. I don't even know how to use your head. I don't want to kill innocent people, but don't force me. These short-brained girls were a little stunned and didn't know if they understood anything. Zhang Chen pondered and remembered Han Han's smile, and then he continued enthusiastically, use as a gun. His mother didn't also hit the trap, then why did he feel that something was wrong at first? At this time, Ah Luan called out to the girls. He started to turn on the deep acting mode and tell you guys, see if I'm fooling you, why are you your arson? Jiang Chen heard these words and felt nauseous. He thought, shit, oh shit, who the hell would believe it? Yes, you don't believe it, Jiang Chen, and these fangirls who don't believe in Gu. Immediately they rushed up like rabid dogs. Ah Luan will not fool people. 4 horsemen will not fool people. Ah Luan says I believe this man is the perpetrator, killing him and killing him. Jiang Chen saw that it also paused a little, it was a short brain. They directly rushed to tear Jiang Chen's shirt and pull his shirt, causing his 6-pack abs to be exposed, making him blush. He thought angrily that today I finally saw something called a brainless fan. He immediately got rid of the girls and loudly scolded you guys to come out for me. Don't think men are easy to bully. These short brainless fans continued to rush up like rabid dogs killing murderers. Ah Luan on one side quietly supported Xiao Hao and Xiao Jian into a corner. Then he gave him a devilish smile. After that, Ah Luan carried Xiao Hao and Xiao Jian on his shoulders, and Zhou came up. Jiang Chen saw that he was about to escape and stretched out his hand to stop him. What kind of man are you bastards not to use a bunch of women as shields? But what kind of man can you escape from the arms of these brainless girls? Suddenly Hong He appeared and stabbed Jiang Chen's stomach with a dagger, causing blood to spit out. She coldly said not to allow you to bully my body. Jiang Chen was suddenly painfully struck. He threw his cold gaze at Hong He. Then gave her a hard flick and scolded her crazy, causing Hong He to lose momentum and stagger backwards. Then he took the dagger and pulled it out of his stomach, giving him a cold smile. These brainless fangirls continued to hold daggers around Jiang Chen. He wanted to harm Ah Luan just now. He must not let him go. Must not let him go. Everyone who hurt Ah Luan must die. They must all die. Jiang Chen was red, clenched his teeth. Shu Pan is crazy. Why is there absolutely no self-respect, no reason, no judgment? Is it different from the brainless Gang Shi? At the same time, the portal crystal notification system that can work on humans is only less effective than Gang Shi, to say the least. The brainless fangirls rushed in like tigers to pounce on the God chapter already defended. He pondered that this kind of person left in the world was either taken advantage of or died. He had to pay attention. He immediately used the plus semen. A burst of energy from Jiang Chen's palm emanated around, causing all the girls who were rushing in to officially fly their heads. As for Ah Luan, he immediately took the opportunity to mess up and carried Xiao Hao and Xiao Jian away. Running a long way to a big tree, he helped Xiao Hao and Xiao Jian sit down. Xiao Jian was quite seriously injured but still managed to slur, "Thank you, I didn't expect to survive, you can even save us." Ah Luan immediately said, "I feel that he doesn't want to kill people, it's just that we are going crazy, otherwise with his strength we would soon be dead." Just built first, he was still talking normally, but the back rope he took out from the system 2 daggers in front of Xiao Hao and Xiao Jian, causing the two of them to be a little surprised. Ah Luan changed his attitude. He coldly said, "Yes, maybe, but what if? I didn't want to die yet. His strength and level were too high. Even if I came to the most intermediate awakening person in the first stage, I didn't dare to guarantee that I could escape." So as he spoke, he stabbed Xiao Jian and Xiao Hao's neck with the dagger. The blood in his neck spewed out. Xiao Hao was stunned and rolled his eyes. He was seriously injured and couldn't resist. A devilish smile bothered you to help me, so he directly fed his 2 brothers boxed meals. Then he began to absorb energy and upgrade. He did not forget to say, "I lead you over here. I don't think saving you is just looking for a no man's place to wait for that guy to leave. I still have to dominate this barracks." After a while, the system sounded announcing ding to upgrade to the 3-stage intermediate awakening. Suddenly behind him came Jiang Chen's voice, which I was really thinking at first, which surprised him. Jiang Chen continued, "Just get the anti-radiation gear that was not willing to be stirred into his turbid water pond. But his shamelessness succeeded in changing my mind." A Luan turned to glance at Jiang Chen for a moment. Jiang Chen clenched his fists in a low voice. It was still a matter of dying to finish Jiang Chen rushing to Ah Luan's place. After successfully upgrading a Luan, he saw that Jiang Chen was a high-level Stage 1 awakener. At this time, Ah Luan secretly thought that seeing the level and meeting the demon, he was a high-level awakened person in this world who really had this kind of person. Ah Luan immediately loudly discouraged something slowly said to you. "You just want supplies, I give you all." But he had already provoked Jiang Chen, and how could Jiang Chen spare him? He continued to rush up. His eyes were extremely cold at this time. Jiang Chen slashed a sharp line towards Ah Luan. He was able to dodge, his face showed a panicked expression. He used a counterattack, both hitting him and cursing this madman. In his mind he secretly calculated, completely fighting back, but with his current strength, running away should not be a problem. It is true that winning and losing the king will run, good night. But he managed to run, and Jiang Chen kept attacking, causing him to create a protective barrier. He finally counterattacked, gathering energy in his hands, scrambling to grab the iron cage. He swung the iron cages at Jiang Chen's side. Jiang Chen still used his cold gaze and rushed over. From the iron cages that Ah Luan threw out appeared a bunch of reinforcements, who rushed out. But Jiang Chen didn't flinch when he came out. The crystal concussion, and the reinforcement that hadn't had time to cough directly flew his head. Ah Luan was frightened. He continued to grab the 2 iron cages with force. He threw out the iron cage again. A lot of reinforcements rushed out from the iron cage, then he rushed away. He thought in his mind it was awkward. But so many Gangxi just needed to be able to stop that monster even for a second. Jiang Chen let out a cold sigh. Then he swung a sword that completely wiped out the Gangxi. Immediately Jiang Chen caught up with him. He swung his foot and kicked him a little, causing him to cry out in pain. Jiang Chen's kick just now directly caused him to fall on his face. He was sweating in fear and stammered to tell his uncle what he wanted to do. Jiang Chen slammed his sword close to where he was lying on the ground, startling him. At this time, Jiang Chen has blackened his face. Shut up for me. I ask you what you answered. What is he still with a hard mouth? What is this crazy monster? Jiang Chen kicked on his back with one foot. He said coldly, even if the upgrade doesn't work, it's completely a scrapper, only a level, no combat ability. Saying you came to the border to stop the radiation monster is also fake, isn't it? Ah Luan coldly replied, what do we stupid women say? They believe it, who ventures to fight. Just give them some sweetness, we don't need to waste any energy to get rich resources to upgrade very easily. I told you how you teamed up with me, called Song Hung. Even if you can live the days of modern times even better here. Jiang Chen raised his hand and said thoughtfully, you don't go to fight monsters, but monsters at the border it is true that there exists. He then asked why don't you guys go to the border, why is it lost? Ah Luan replied that this is not important. Not saying this thought of that Hung compound of mine. How do you feel? He continued to negotiate. Jiang Chen didn't say nothing. A sword sent him off to meet his other 3 brothers. He angrily scolded, but Shang, didn't your mother say to tell you to die? Jiang Chen's system sounded the announcement. Automatically collect multiplier energy crystals 93,007,540 80% plus Tianfu. Signature image of certain combination multiplied by 230. Cheerleading props multiplied by 520. Primary water purifier multiplied by 1. Crossbow multiplied by 196. Small drawing multiplied by 1. Sharp short sword multiplied by 182. Drawing of sharp short swords multiplied by 1. Map of Bintan City by 1. Fragment of ring by multiplication 722. After the announcement was finished, Jiang Chen turned to a series of red eyes of the Gangxi that he had just thrown out earlier that were heading towards him. Suddenly something startled Jiang Chen's attention. Behind the bald-headed erections wearing masks was a large figure of another Gangxi. On its neck was a huge chain ring. This creature with an extremely muscular body, his whole body was bound with a large chain, rubbing his eyes red. Jiang Chen saw it. Cold for an hour, there was a net to see you off for a while, and then he firmly held the sword in his hand. Jiang Chen jumped up and was about to swing a sword to see off this sword for a while. But suddenly there was a shout. Don't harm him, causing Jiang Chen to pause for a few seconds. As Han Han, she came from nowhere and called out to Mr. Zhang. Han Han was now standing in front of the big Gangxi. She said loudly, the radiation clothes you need I will give you. Just beg you if you want to kill me and him. Jiang Chen heard this, and his expression was clearly angry. He coldly slashed a sword straight at Han Han. But the sword blow just now was just that he slashed it out and plunged it into the ground, which was enough to make Han Han afraid to pee. Jiang Chen said angrily, said in a low voice, pretended to me. Really thought that I didn't kill you. Said you used radiation clothes to trick me into coming here. What is the purpose? Crying deliciously, she said the purpose of course was to send all the people here to hell. From the first time I saw him I knew he could help me. In her head now is the image of a performance. In that performance suddenly appeared a space door. Han Han frightenedly hugged her boyfriend. The image kept haunting her mind. She continued a performance by the 4 horsemen and I were naturally dragged into this. After adjusting to the beginning, we began to accept reality. It felt like as long as the two of us were together, it wasn't a worry, but it was also at this point that things started to change. The four horsemen began to use the position of Messiah, standing in front of everyone in the name of fighting against their fan organization in search of supplies. But gradually I discovered that the men in the barracks were getting less and less. My boyfriend and I decided to get out of the barracks, and then my boyfriend lost it. Han Han remembered that moment when she was left alone in the middle of the void. Han Han continued, and I was also pushed towards those four people. She remembered everyone's words at that time. Being looked at by the four horsemen was her blessing. What was your boyfriend? Isn't it normal for a useless man to disappear? Loyalty to the four horsemen is our mission. Except for the four horsemen, all men deserve to die. She turned to look at the big Gang Shi, who was wrapped in chains, and continued, because I live on to coincide with him. I continue to stay in the barracks, but when I finally find him, he turns into such a figure. Speaking of this, Han Han angrily clenched his fist and punched him hard on the ground. It was the four horsemen who had harmed him so badly, and the others in the barracks were all complicit, including Wei Hong. They were all more shameless than those four people taking advantage of their daughters to help them upgrade. Han Han sat on the ground sobbing and continued, but they hadn't come to the border against the deceiver radiation monster. Zhang Chen, hearing her words, was also a little surprised. At this time, Zhang Chen was extremely serious. He asked, "So you used me to kill everyone here?" Han Han got up and ran somewhere, she said, taking advantage of him. "I'm so sorry, but someone like me who wants revenge really has no choice." She ran to an iron cage, then used her hands to try to open the door of the iron cage. Zhang Chen also hurriedly followed, and Han Han opened the covering cloth to reveal the radiation clothes. She took the set and brought it in front of Zhang Chen and said, "This is the protective clothing that I promised you. A total of 4 sets should say." I said, "If you want to kill me, then go. I hope I can die with my boyfriend. It turns out that the radiation clothes you hid here. Don't blame me for not finding even the barracks." Zhang Chen sighed slightly. Zhang Chen quickly put away the protective clothes and continued, "What I need has already been taken to kill the people in that place. There are also a lot of supplies. We are considered to be in harmony." Then he turned and left without forgetting to wave hello. "I have no reason to kill you, and I'm in a hurry. If you want to die, you go." Zhang Chen took out a dagger from the system space. Then he threw the knife at Han Han, much to her surprise. Zhang Chen turned his head and said coldly, "But does that boyfriend of hers really want to die with her?" After Zhang Chen left coldly, Han Han still watched the shadow of his back. Yes, Han Han's lover blocked Zhang Chen's path. He growled, the chain on his body was removed. Zhang Chen only gave him one look. Then a kick to his arm hurt him. It seemed that this arm of his was broken. Gang Shi cried out in pain. Zhang Chen rushed towards him at the speed of light. He coldly bent his hand backwards. Then tied him up with chains. Han Han on one side was extremely surprised. "What are you doing?" The Gang Shi was angry at this time, but there was nothing he could do. He could only growl. When he finished, Zhang Chen brushed off his hand, smiled and said, "Isn't this worrying about you killing him, not killing him, breaking his hands? No need to thank him?" So he just left. He didn't forget to tell Han Han, south of Tianyang City, there is a military headquarters of Long Zhen state soldiers. If you don't die, then your mind is good. They would be very welcoming to her. Han now ran to hug her lover tightly. This man threw a cold gaze at Han Han. His whole body trembled with joy. The military headquarters of Tianyang City. In her hand was the dagger left by Zhang Chen. She suddenly remembered his words earlier. Did that boyfriend really want to die with her? Then she coldly used the dagger left behind by Zhang Chen to stab a fatal blow to send her lover on her way. On Zhang Chen's side, he smiled quite confidently. He thought that if she was really smart enough, the next time she went to the southern military headquarters, he would be able to meet her. When he was transferred to the central hospital of Nanshan City, Zhang Chen was using all his vitality to run into the hospital. His system kept ringing out that submissive pills could last 10 seconds, spare pills could last 9 seconds, submissive pills could last 8 seconds. Zhang Chen still tried to grit his teeth and run at full speed. In his head he silently scolded, "Oh my god, I can't get mad anymore." A few seconds later the sound of the system sounded again, the submissive pill invalidated. At the same time, a frustrated scream sounded from the hospital. Zhang Chen heard this, and then it was really crazy. Zhang Chen's expression at this time was extremely hurried, and he kicked the door with his foot, loudly calling out for approval. But the truth unfolding in front of the God chapter at this moment made him stand dumbfounded. The two girls Xiao Shi and Shi Chen were opening a bottle of Coke, causing the water from the bottle to splash both of them who were having fun with each other. Little Xiao Shi smiled happily. When she also spoke up, she said that it was impossible to fit, but Xiao Shi was really naughty. Jiang Chen rushed to Hui's place and asked her why did she release it. Being so surprised, she was a little embarrassed. She stammered because. Without letting Jiang Chen have time to explain that Jiang Chen was about to grab Xiao Shi, she also sensed it, so she suddenly turned to glance. But suddenly, Xiao Shi hugged her mother and called out loudly to her mother, hoping to laugh happily, and Jiang Chen was amazed at her mother. Jiang Chen leaned slightly and stared at Xiao Shi. He also turned to glance at Jiang Chen. Then suddenly it jumped forward happily calling 3, making Jiang Chen stand for 5 seconds. He smiled happily and said to Jiang Chen, "Follow it first." He still doesn't understand what's going on. What's with what? After a while, a pile of delicious snacks, chicken thighs, chips and bread were brought to her. Xiao Shi sat down to eat. His eyes were shining. He seemed to be very hungry and felt that this food was very delicious. Jiang Chen and Shi Chen sat next to her and watched her eat like a hungry tiger. Jiang Chen wondered if she woke up like this. Why didn't she remember anything? Her taste was bigger than before, and called her mother, hoping to nestle on Jiang Chen's shoulder and reply. Well, after fainting again, it seemed to trigger the impression effect. The reward was just like that. I'm not here. I arbitrarily released it. It's too risky. Leaning on Jiang Chen's shoulder, gently said sorry. It was just like that. Looking at you pitifully, I really wasn't callous. Then she went over and patted Xiao Zai's head and said, but luckily, Xiao Shi is still Xiao Shi. Even if she doesn't remember anything, it is Xiao Shi, making her eat well. Jiang Chen also rubbed his head to make her happy, laughing at his eyes. He talked he didn't know and forgot. We taught him little by little. So the next 2 days were the time that Jiang Chen and Shi spent teaching Xiao Shi again. At this time, Jiang Chen was instructing Xiao Shi girl. They were looking at the computer screen. Jiang Chen said that if you want to get acquainted with the world, start from Xiao Shi. Little Xiao Shi rolled her eyes and made a sound. Huh? Huh? Jiang Chen said helplessly. Don't just learn the sound of pigs. Next was to teach Xiao Shi to use a gun to attack Gang Shi. At this point, she seemed to be very happy, just laughing and lowering the fever. But she used the gun extremely skillfully. It was a skill that was deeply absorbed in her blood. After successfully destroying the Gang Shi group, he beckoned to Dad. Ba ba. Jiang Chen applauded him. Wow, too good, too brave. Killing Gang Shi did not back down at all. But don't call me Dad anymore. I have to call him Old Dao. She immediately obeyed, excitedly calling out to the old man, hearing that Jiang Chen was also helpless. At this time, Jiang Chen and Shi Chen were discussing with each other. He said seriously, things like memories are not coercive now, it is also very good. Hope on one side. Smile. Xiao Zai's eyes recovered very quickly. If you can recall what happened before, it would be good, Jiang Chen replied. Well, so Xiao Zai's current state, we should continue to approach the direction of the pit. The system announces that the total fusion energy is currently 210,000. The total fusion energy is 4. After checking the system again, Jiang Chen turned to call Xiao Shi. Baby mouse, stop playing, finish lunch, we have to depart. Hearing this, her face shortened. She seemed a little depressed because she was having fun. Little Xiao Shi was a little dismissive but finally agreed. But suddenly she jumped down from the pile of Jiang Shi's corpses and ran away, causing Jiang Chen to be surprised. Hey, what are you running? Jiang Chen immediately chased after him from the palm of his hand and began to take out the plane. Jiang Chen turned to Shi Chen and said to Shi Zan, I really have to go after it. I hope you adjust the plane. I hope you can quickly agree. Jiang Chen chased Xiao Shi to the hospital corridor. He loudly called out to Xiao Shi Rad not to break anymore, we have to go. Jiang Chen continued to look for a corner of the corridor. He suddenly heard hi hee hee laughter and moaning. Made him unconscious. Notice this sound. Jiang Chen immediately ran towards the sound. In a basement, his body was extremely urgent at this time. Coming down to where Jiang Chen loudly asked Xiao Shi what she was doing. She heard this and turned to glance. Jiang Chen immediately pulled out a dagger and pointed it at her loudly and said that he was a weeping man. Xiao Shu passed here. He didn't notice that there was this thing in the building. He secretly scolded angrily in his mind, suggesting that bad luck was slow to provide information. Little Xiao Shi immediately explained it. It's different. It's beautiful, it's yours, if you want to go, you have to take it. In front of Xiao Shi is now a pink-haired girl, she is moaning. Zhang Chen realized that she was from Shui Na. Why did she turn into this? The girl involuntarily pointed towards the pile of needles and empty vials at the side. Zhang Chen swallowed. He thought that he hadn't seen him in a few days, so he sneaked an injection for himself, although he did not turn into a human. But he was more eye-catching and did not know how his mind recovered. Suddenly, Zhang Chen slumped down, causing Xiao Shi to nervously stretch out his hand, and the big man was not allowed to harm her. Xiao Shi involuntarily hugged Shu Shui Na, and before I was very serious, I asked, Shu Shui Na, now we want to go to the place where the sperm falls to find the Venus node. Do you want to come with me? Shu Shiuna couldn't hide the surprise on her face.